Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call to order the Haslett City Council meeting. So all of you that are online, welcome. And those of you in the chambers, welcome. City Council, good evening. This is the August 7th, 2023, 7 p.m. The quorum is present. In fact, all council members are present and accounted for in the chamber. Item 1, call to order the meeting and announce the quorum. We got invocation and pledge of allegiance. If you would bow your head with me and then stand for the pledge of allegiance. Well, Father God, we thank you for all the many blessings and the guidance that you give us. We pray for your leading and our decision makings. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 3, we have no proclamations or presentations that I'm aware of. I don't know why it's on here, but nonetheless, we do have a template sometimes. Item 4, citizen participation and comments. Is there anyone in the chambers or online who would like to make a comment? Do we have any speakers that are signed up?
We have speakers for item 8A and 8B, but I don't have anyone else signed up.
Very good. All right. There's no one online who would like to make comments? There are no online, and there are none in the chamber. So let's go to item 5. And excuse me, I need to ask my wife a question. Ms. Halsey, would you please? Thank you. I had to refresh myself on the name to make sure. Nonetheless, items of community interest. 5A, all city offices and the library will be closed Monday, September the 4th for the Labor Day holiday. 5B, Haslett is hiring city secretary, parks and ground maintenance workers, water maintenance workers, and please pass that on. If you go to haslett.org, you'll find out more about the job descriptions. Item 6 is administrative reports. Council, do you have any questions on administrative reports? And I would like to mention that Sergeant Lamunion with Tarrant County Sheriff's Office is present. Should you have any questions for him?
I just got one question on the engineering report.
Yes.
And maybe it's something we can put on an item for the next agenda item for a council meeting, but an update on this Laprelle West and these 3 proposed connections to John Day Road. So I think that falls in line with the ordinance that we worked on at the last council meeting.
Correct.
So I'd like to get kind of an overall update on what's being done with that whole scenario there.
Very good. We'll do that.
Thank
We can make note of that for a future agenda item.
Mayor Halsey,
Yes.
can I add on to that? On the engineer's report, an update with the Milestone Church ETJ and what their status is as well?
I can tell you what the status is right now.
Oh, perfect.
The status is we are awaiting a traffic impact analysis, Mr. Rogers can confirm that, from the client. And that traffic impact analysis was submitted to TxDOT maybe a month ago by the client. And internally, TxDOT, as a week ago, maybe 10 days ago, transferred it to the traffic division of TxDOT. And they are doing their analysis and will generate their comments and return it to Milestone. Then Milestone will submit it to the city. Any other questions on our reports? If not, let's move on to updates on activity items, projects, event recap, community park projects. Mr. Tucker.
Yes, sir. Mayor and council, we didn't have a specific one on the community park projects, but I do have one for 7B. 7A, the only update would be that the tennis courts are pretty much 99.9% completed. There's just a handful of small details that I think are either already worked out or will be in the very near future. They are more than substantially complete. And then on 7B, could you bring up those photos for me? We have finally taken possession of that vac truck that we had ordered for all this time, and it is absolutely fantastic. Our crews have been trained on it, and they've already put it to work. If you could go to one of the next ones. There we go. So they're already actively using it, and it's everything we thought it would be, and we absolutely appreciate y'all funding this kind of equipment because it takes, you know, a lot of the time that it takes to use some of the other equipment. This one is, you know, 100 times better than any other machine we've had to do a similar job.
Very good. Very good.
Real quick, how many people do we have trained to use the truck right now?
So we trained absolutely everybody in Public Works. Now, specifically, we only intend for about 4 people to use it regularly. And the other people, we just gave them a general idea. So even our parks workers, if we end up having the need to supplement one of them in to help out, now they will not be expected to ever run that truck without one of the other people actually in the water and sewer side. But everybody was exposed to the training. But specifically, the 4 water and sewer personnel were given the detailed and operational of it. So everybody's been exposed, but 4 people will be expected to know how to use it, and they will forever train new employees as we need. So every time we hire another person, they will send somebody back out to retrain.
Okay, thank you. Were you or David part of the training?
I was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Very good. One item we didn't have on here was Hassett Parkway. Hassett Parkway continues. There isn't much change. They continue to work, progress. Item 8, public hearing ordinances, resolutions, and action items.
Mayor Halsey,
Yes,
quick question. We had nothing for the consent agenda today.
that's correct. I was the acting city secretary at one of the previous meetings that you would see that on, and we are working on last week. So you'll see that at the next meeting. Item 8A, discuss, consider, and act regarding the approval of the amended site and landscape plan for 112 Harmon Road. Mr. Schwanke.
Mayor Halsey and members of the council, this is a site plan for, like the mayor said, on 112 Harmon Road, just south of Westport Parkway, and it contains approximately 21 acres. And there was a site plan previous about 2 years ago that was on this site, and this they have a different user, and it's going to be an industrial type site, a terminal for transfer of goods in the trucks, and we have actually 3 people that representing that company tonight in the audience. So it's been seen by the Planning and Zoning Commission, and they made some small recommended changes in the site plan. And one of them was to make sure and encourage all traffic that comes out of this site to go northbound up to Westport Parkway instead of southbound. And so they have done that, and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval.
So the reason for the changes so they can divert the traffic northbound instead of southbound, is that correct?
Well, that's one of their tweaks that the Planning and Zoning Commission wanted to see, and we wholly endorse it. But the reason for the original site plan had some extra buildings on there, a maintenance building, and they have taken that off, and they've actually increased the office space of this building. And so those are some of the reasons why that it's changed.
Council, would you desire to hear from the applicants? But Mr. Swanky's given a very good overview. All right then, item number 2 of this item is the public hearing. I open the public hearing for anyone who would like to make comment towards this amended site plan landscape plan for 112 Harmon Road. And if you would come, turn on the mic and state your name and address, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm Hunter Melman. Address is 4925 Greenville Avenue, suite number 915, Dallas, Texas 57206. What I will say about this site is it's different than your typical industrial site. We have an end user that's committed to their environmental impacts and committed to mitigating that as much as possible. They very much care about the appearance of the building, about their employees. As Morris had mentioned, we have increased the office footprint. We've increased the office facade from what was originally approved 2 years ago. And I do have, if you guys want me to, I've got exterior elevations and also a rendering of what the building will look like that I can share with you. I'm not sure if it was uploaded, but I'd be willing to pass these out if you guys want to take a look.
Please go ahead, and if you give them to Mr. Morris Schwenke, he'll pass them out to the council.
And then just telling a little bit about the company. The company's from New Zealand. They've got a massive emphasis on treating their employees well and doing everything they can to minimize their impact on the environment. They've got a full initiative trending towards net zero energy and electronic trucks that can be energized at that facility, as well as some other improvements. So in the packet, you'll see the site plan breakdown as well as elevations and then a rendering that we've mocked up.
Very good. This being a public hearing, I'm going to ask the council, do you have any, this is not a Q&A part of the meeting. And so any other comments? Otherwise, you're in favor of this project.
Very much so.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
Chris Halsey, 2003 Highway 156. Can somebody give just a brief description of what an industrial truck terminal building is? What is this? And I'll go. Thank you.
Morris?
Yeah, it's, products that will come into the site, via truck, and they'll leave. A lot of times there'll be a transfer of materials inside the warehouse. It's a truck terminal where they'll back trucks up to it.
To load the trucks? To load and unload?
Yes, that is correct.
So a truck terminal is a warehouse.
Will there be warehouse? I don't know if they're going to store materials in there for a very long period of time. The applicant could probably tell you a little bit more about that than I can, exactly what the interior.
Please, sir, can you answer, what's the function of the building?
Yes, so the function of the building is it's an LTL facility, which means less than load. So you have trucks coming in on one side of the facility, and they'll have an outgoing side and an incoming side. So you'll have trucks back up on one side, product will be taken from one truck bed to another truck bed, and then sent to the next location. So it's kind of a distribution point. Material stored there will be stored there pretty much no longer than 24 hours, given the skinniness of the building. It's only 80 feet wide. And so you will have truck traffic, like Morris had mentioned, and then there's also some trailer parking for trucks that are not in service, not running their typical route just then. What I will say is about this facility is all of these truck drivers are contracted directly by Main Freight. It's not a third-party trucking company that's selling out these services, so all the drivers will be familiar with the site, familiar with how to get in and out. I know we had mentioned all the trucks will be turning left onto Harmon Road. We are also signalizing the intersection of Westport Parkway and Harmon Road to prevent any traffic or mitigate most traffic collisions, if any. And then we are also extending a water line down Harmon Road to support our property.
So they're doing a significant, upgrade in that area.
Yes, all of Harmon Road will be demoed and replaced and built up to current City of Hazlet code up to the extent of our property limits.
Very good, thank you. Mrs. Halsey, do you have any follow-up questions? Thank you. Are there any others?
I'd like to make an additional comment, if I could, about
Please.
about the engineering plans. One of the things they're going to be doing is replacing several panels on Westport Parkway completely off their site, because there's some bad parts of it. I believe there's either 3 or 4 panels that we're looking into.
You're talking about electrical panels?
No, I'm talking about concrete
Oh,
on the road.
panels, I got you. Okay. And when they're diverting the trucks northbound, is there gonna be some kind of barrier where they can't go south, or how do you plan on doing it?
What it is, there'll be a sweeping curve, and it shows up on the site plan where and it's real wide so the trucks can easily make it. But, for access, you have to have a little bit of a radius, but it would be virtually impossible for a truck to make a right-hand turn onto Harmon.
So they are respectful of why we requested no southbound travel on Harmon Road, and they understand fully why. The next speaker?
Yes, the next speaker is Connor Harmon.
Please, sir.
Connor Harmon, address 8770 West Bryn Mawr Avenue, Suite 1350, Chicago, Illinois, 60631. I'm for the development. I work for Timber Hill. We're the umbrella company of the property owner of 112 Harmon Road. And just to piggyback off of what Hunter said, we're excited to bring a Class A office and industrial development to the city and advance economic development initiatives that staff set forth. And in addition to that, we'll be bringing 40 to 50 high-paying jobs and significant tax revenue to the city. And from a nuisance standpoint, we pride ourselves on being a good neighbor and working with any neighboring properties if there are any issues, which I don't foresee there being any. And finally, it's been a pleasure working with staff, and the team and I look forward to continued dialogue toward a successful project. That's all I have.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Are there any others who, in the public hearing, who would like to speak online or in the chambers? Is there anyone online? No one online? All right. Anyone else in the chamber? No other that have signed up? All right, then I will close this public hearing at 7:19 p.m. And next item is discuss, consider, and act, council.
Mayor Halsey,
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to approve the amended site and landscape plan for the 112 Harmon Road.
Motion is made to approve the amended site plan and landscape plan for 112 Harmon Road. Is there a second?
Mayor Halsey, I'll second.
There is a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, just wanted clarification on this. So is Main Freight gonna, are they the owner of the building, or are they gonna lease the facility from the owner?
They're gonna lease the facility, and us as Timber Hill Group, we're the property owners. But there's a other entity that owns the property that is under the Timber Hill name.
Okay, and how long do they anticipate the initial lease being in years? Is it short term, like 1 to 5 or 5 to 10?
Yeah,
you know?
the initial lease term is 10 with a 10-year renewal on top of that.
Okay, thank you. And just for clarification on the site map, so the points of entrance are going to be onto Harmon Road. So that the little panhandle piece that goes directly over to Westport, that's not going to be an entrance or exit, is it? That's closed off from,
Yep.
What I could see on the document you provided.
Correct. That's the stormwater area, the little thing.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure we didn't have an extra entrance on there, because I think originally back years ago, that was planned to be one of the main entrances to that site. Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Very good. Any discussion? If not, then I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's unanimous. This motion carries. Item 8B, discuss, consider, and act regarding the approval of a final plat for 112 Harmon Road. Mr. Swanky.
Yeah, Mayor Halsey, members of the council, this is a plat that corresponds to the site plan that you just had a look at and approved. And we're recommending that that you approve it in accordance with the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
All right. Do you have any questions of Mr. Swanky for the site plan?
Plat.
Or plat, excuse me, final plat. All right then, discuss, consider, and act. Council.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve a final plat for 112 Harmon Road.
Motion is made to approve the final plat for 112 Harmon Road. Is there a second?
I second that.
There is a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Motion approved. Congratulations, gentlemen. 8C, discuss, consider, and act regarding the approval of an ordinance amending Appendix A, fees schedule, Article 7, development fees of the city, Haslett City Code of Ordinances, ordinance number 006-2022. Mr. Thetford.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. As the Mayor stated, this is an amendment to our fee schedule and development fees. Essentially, this is an amendment to permits for vendors, peddlers, commercial solicitors, itinerant merchants, amending the section to add a background check fee for every employee operating under the permit. The fee will be equal to the actual fee charged for the company conducting the background check investigation, and also a $16 fee for each city-issued identification card that each employee will have. The fee will be the actual staff time and materials, software to produce each ID worn by each employee operating under that permit. There's also another plan review fee as part of this. The current ordinance we have right now is 006-2022 provides for a plan review fee for all single-family residential structures greater than 4,000 square feet in size. That ordinance right now is actually waiving all other residential structures, the fees for those. The fee is actually 40% of the building permit fee. It'd be very beneficial for the plan review fee to be added to all single-family residential structures, no matter the size of it. Amending this section will allow a base fee for all residential plan reviews. The fee will be $510 for each permit. This includes a 20% re-review fee for all permits. Any additional plan review fees will be added and will be due prior to the issuance of the permit. Plan review fees are non-refundable. It's also going to add a new section, residential accessory building plan review. Residential accessory buildings and structures greater than 120 square feet. The base charge will be $175 due at the time of application submission. Any additional plan review fees will be added and will be due prior to the issuance of the permit. Plan review fees are non-refundable. It's also going to add another section, all non-residential construction projects to include primary and accessory buildings and structures. It will be 65% of the building permit fee. You have ordinance here. I'll be happy to entertain any questions you may have.
I would like to make a comment that with regard to the residential plan review, we're making a little change in that we are contracting with a third-party residential plan review,
yes,
and that's all their business is. So they review these plans in accordance with the code, and this fee change recovers that cost. And Mr. Theft, counsel, you have any questions for Mr. Thefter?
So I just want to clarify what you said. So what we see in the budget for these fees, that they're going to be reimbursed, and
Correct.
so the city will not be out.
Correct. All right, then, if there are no, Mr. Ricketts, you look like you have a question. Okay. All right. I'm just reading expressions right now.
I also want to reiterate the first one on the permits for solicitation. So now each person has to have an identification. It can't just and pay a fee for that. It can't be under.
Yeah, so
just one.
we've actually been doing this for a while. Every solicitor for the last several years now at least have had to have they have to have an ID with them. We're just now starting to charge for that because we were. It's one thing when they apply for a permit for a solicitor and they have one person, but now we're getting large solicitors out there. They may apply for one fee or one permit fee. It's $50, but they have 50 employees, and we're losing money in that, or
We're paying for it, aren't we?
right? Yeah. Now the citizens are paying for that, so we're just putting that fee back onto the permit holder.
And I just want to clarify, then these solicitors for the citizens have to be able to show those ID cards.
Yes, they have to have it on them when they're going door to door. We try to make that public awareness or public knowledge that, if you're a homeowner in a subdivision, someone comes to your door and they're soliciting, they should have that. If they don't have a City of Haslett ID card, then they don't have a permit.
Can we see a picture of what the permit looks like? I know there was, I believe, one picture on the packet, but you can't really see like straight up front what it looks like. Just so we know what to look for if someone comes to your door to ask them if they
I don't have one
permit.
right now, but I can get that for you.
What we could do, if we make note of it, is get a picture of that. We can write a very, little article and put it on Newsflash.
Correct.
And that way, all our citizens would have access to see that.
Or you could put it on the newsletter that goes out every month too.
We could do that also. Very good idea. Any questions for Mr. Thetfer on our development or our fees schedule? If not, then discussion, consideration, and action.
I just have, Mayor Holstead, I will ask sort of the question for future. I don't need it now, but for future, it'd been sort of nice to sort of see the red line change between the 006-2022 versus the 006-2023. And that's what I was sort of looking for in here. And so to see what actually did change in the document itself.
Very good, and you're right, that was very helpful to have that.
Mayor Holsey,
Yes,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the ordinance amending Appendix A, Fees Scheduled, Article 7, Development Fees of the Haslett City Code of Ordinances, ordinance number 006-2022.
motion is made to approve the ordinance amending Appendix A fee schedule, Article 7 development fees of the city of the Haslett City Code of Ordinances, ordinance number 006-2022. Is there a second?
Mayor Halsey, I'll second.
There's a second. Any further discussion? I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Thetford.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Item 8D, discuss, consider, and act regarding change order number 2, traffic mitigation and signage plan. Mr. Rogers.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This here is going to be a request for a budget amendment for a change order number 2 for the traffic mitigation and signage plan phase 1. If you remember, the first original change order was for crosswalks, signs, lighting, school zone lighting up around the Haslett Elementary School. During all that process, then it was figured out that, hey, we need to tie this together because we have an east side development there in Laterra and a west side of John Day, which is a 4-lane road, to create a safe routes to schools kind of thing. We needed to have crosswalks at Laterra Ranch Road, which is a direct route from the east straight to the elementary school. And then at Laterra Vista, we needed to do the same thing so that later the west side people can make access to the new middle school and high school, which then also meant we have to have a 4-way stop installed. So just kept going on and on till we go to really make this all work, make everything cohesive so that now both sides of John Day Road can make it to whichever school they need to be going to. So we went back to the contract, another deal of how much would this cost, and this changes. We're up to the other change order one was $20,000, so that took us to $253,500. This one is another $24,406.18, so that would take us to $278,536.18 for this project. But we feel like this would be, we're here, let's do this now rather than come back later and have to turn right around and do this again and try to get this all in as soon as possible.
Very good. I'd like to add to that, and thank you, Councilmember Morrow. I had a typo in the correction. I had a 5 that didn't belong in there. And so what you see has been corrected. No, it isn't. That 5 is supposed to be out of there.
Yeah.
So it's $1,587.55. So that is the correct shortfall, and that was due to we had approved the $20,000, but during the construction meetings, that was updated, and we were $1,500 essentially short. This ask right here, change order number 2 is $22,819. Accounting for the shortfall that we had in change order number 1, the total ask is $24,406.18. Our funding source is from the Certificate of Obligation Interest Earnings. Ms. Lamb can expound on that.
Yes, and you should have a corrected report at your spot this evening. The interest earnings on the COs, our financial advisors have advised us we can use about 70 to 75% of the interest earnings that are generated from the investment of the bond proceeds. And so that is the funding source for this project. We've been the beneficiary of some pretty high interest rates since we did that bond issue, and we have plenty of funds to cover this.
And so there is no impact on our budget, none whatsoever. So any questions, council?
I do have a question. The other 30% that's not allowed to be used for, at our discretion, what is that allowed to be used for?
There's a possibility because of the yield on the bonds. I believe it's 3.9% is our arbitrage yield limit. There's some other factors that go into that calculation, the timing of your project spend and some other factors. But we invested the proceeds, and so as long as we're not using the proceeds because the project hasn't advanced, we're earning interest on that. We're earning interest at a higher amount than 3.9 yield that we're allowed to. So the federal government will choose to cause us to pay some of that interest back. But because of the way those calculations are made, and because of the, we are allowed to earn 3.9% of our interest, there's a possibility we, at some point in the project, would have to pay some money back to the IRS. But the payment to the IRS would come from the interest earnings, so even that would not have an impact on our budget.
Will this be complete before the school year begins?
They probably will be close, but it won't be. Signage is the biggest thing. Getting the signs in here, that is taking, like everything else these days, seems like it's forever to get the aluminum blanks, and then the actual screenings are hard to come by.
So probably the answer is no.
Okay.
Yeah, they'll be there faster than we can get there.
So it's not ready to
But
go on the ground.
They have painted in all the crosswalks are there, it's just the signs are not there.
Do you have a timeline of when it would be complete?
They don't. They're reworking one. Matter of fact, he was emailing me while we were here just now, some changes that are coming. There's some things that are coming a little sooner, some things coming, looks like a little bit later than they thought. They're going to be putting up the poles and all. They've got that stuff, but the signs themselves they're just lagging behind.
We have pressed them for a schedule for well over a month, and they are just not able to give a schedule because material arrivals, they don't know either.
They are pushing that when everything comes in, that's the ones that they're trying to get done first, is anything to do with school. That's their number one goal, is those areas.
Any further questions? All right, your discussion, consider an action.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve change order number 2, traffic mitigation and signage plan phase 1.
And
Do I should put the amount of?
You can round it off
24.
up.
Okay, 24,406.18 we taken from the interest of the.
And you stated 24,406.18. Yes, but I said you could round up if you wanted to. All right, then. That's good enough. All right, the motion is made to approve the funding request for the traffic change order number 2, the traffic mitigation and signage plan phase 1 in the amount of $24,406.18, funded by the certificate of obligation interest earnings. Is there a second?
Yes, Mayor, I'll second that.
There is a second. Any further discussion? Then I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, council.
Thank you, Mayor, Council.
Our next item. Discuss, consider, and act to amend the project budget and award the contract for the Ashmore Farm Street Improvement Project. Mr. Rogers.
Me again, okay. We are on this is, again, awarding the contract as we went out to bids. Of course, if you remember, we went out to bids first time, got only one bid. So we had to re-go back, redo it, resend out bids again. This time we did get bids on this from a number of contractors. And the prior ones we've looked at, we are recommending that we go to Level 1 Paving Incorporated. One, because they've done a number of jobs here that we were very pleased with the way they've done, as well as the other cities they work in also have been the same way. But the project did come out more than what we thought. The whole project bid, as I said, $1,408,280.05. Our budget was only $892,986.60. So we got a shortfall of just over $500,000, $515,355.95.
I would like to make a comment to the large contributor to that difference of what was estimated to what the actual bid is. So early on in developing the engineering plans and looking very much closer to the roadway, they discovered failures during the engineering to develop plans.
Yeah, the test holes that were bored into the pavement.
So
came
they
back with
brought
lot
in
of
a
fails.
company to do bores and do laboratory analysis
Mhm.
with regard to streets. That's all they do. And it was discovered that much more work had to be done subsurface and the concrete level. Then the substrate could be put on. Otherwise, it's a waste of money.
Mhm.
So that's a large part of where that estimated versus actual difference came into play.
Yeah, that testing more than probably in the long run, it's more than going to pay for itself, because that was a very small amount of money that it came back with a lot of really big results.
Council, do you have any questions, Mr. Rogers?
I've got a couple of questions. So I think I only saw the two prices or two bids that came in, at one at 1.289 and the other one at 1.408, the one that you're recommending to go with.
You do have a bid
Should be a
sheet
sheet there
that's in your
with
package.
four. Should be four different ones.
Okay. Sorry,
that
that's
one. There
that's
you go, right there.
the lowest one. Okay, so 1.2 versus 1.4. And the reason you're going with this, the one that you chose, is because they've done projects for us in the past.
That they're the better value from what we know of these guys. So that was one of the main reasons we wanted to go with these people. The engineers have also had lots of deals to do with them in other cities, and we didn't get as good a warm and fuzzy from the references for the low bidder.
So our best value, which I do support, is the Level 1 paving company. And would request that you would award this contract to them, should you approve the budget act.
And I'll add something else just from the legal side. So typically, the cities and governmental entities always go with the lowest bid, but under our state law, you are not necessarily required to, and you're allowed to consider multiple different factors in making that determination, as both the mayor and David mentioned. And so some of those things are experience, the quality of product, and those are the, speaking with the engineers, speaking with city staff, those have been considered, and that is why they are deeming Level 1 Paving Inc. Not just the best value, but the lowest responsible bidder, which is what the term is under state law. And so if you were to move forward with awarding the contract to Level 1 Paving Inc., I would also recommend that you add into your motion that you deem Level 1 Paving Inc. the lowest responsible bidder, just that we have that on the record, which is something that you all.
And I guess I'll tell you where the extra money we want would come from the transportation sales tax. So it's not going to affect budget numbers.
Mayor Holsey, I do have a question.
Yes.
And it's probably for you, Jeremy, then. Based upon that, is there a way that, or is there any reason that the other companies could not come out and do a protest?
So, I mean, it's always possible, and so that's why that's why we have the factors listed out specifically in the engineer's letter. That's why we're mentioning them tonight, and that's why in our motion we would be deeming the level one paving the lowest responsible bidder, so that we have as much backup as possible, just in case. But as far as we know, speaking with Mike, they haven't reached out to us upset that they weren't chosen for this project. So I don't see any problems moving forward with it. This is just to ensure that there aren't.
Okay.
To the best of our abilities.
I think I got it. I was trying to do math. So the project contingency, I was thinking it was just part of the bid, but it's 5% of the actual total.
Actual total. Again, you know, we only did a hole here and a hole here. We don't, you know, there's always a possibility that there was something just over here or just over here that we missed. We don't know. So we want to have a little bit of wiggle room for, hopefully we don't find anything else.
It's 5%. That's kind of normal.
That's pretty much a standard. We usually try to go with somewhere around that amount, unless it's a hugely complicated project. Sometimes it may be higher, but on this one, there's been enough work. That's pretty standard.
If we find a sinkhole out there, we'll come back and ask
Oh yeah,
for
if
more.
we find something really, really bad that we know is not going to cover that, we'll be having to come back and ask for some more money out of the transportation tax fund.
I got one more question. Is it allowed, or have you ever gone back and try to bid these guys down, any at all? Negotiate with them?
No, these guys did we talked with them and they had already done the best. I mean, that was their best offer they had to do, was at that price to cover what they thought needed to be done.
And what is the timeline for the completion of this project?
Once we would get this to them and get that, then we'd work with them on their schedule. Usually we give them roughly about 30 days to mobilize and get started. Then the project, I believe, is a total of 90 days. So somewhere around 120 days from now, we should be done.
I would like to make a motion to amend the project budget and award the contract for the Ashmore Farms Street Improvement Project to Level 1 Paving, which is the lowest responsible bidder.
Very good. And the amended request as submitted, as presented?
Yes, the amount as presented.
Okay. Motion is made to approve the project budget as submitted and award the contract for the Ashmore Farms Street Improvement Project to the Level 1 Paving Company. Is there a second?
I second.
There is a second. Any further discussion? I'll call for the vote. All in favor? It's unanimous. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Item 8F, fiscal year 2023-24 budget discussion. So, Council, we concluded a very good workshop. And one of the, out of that workshop, it was a request to investigate if these ARPA funds could be used on certain items. And Ms. Lamb?
Yes, and speaking with Chief Mays, I think there was the question of whether the radios could be included. And since they're not specifically first responder radios and used in the fire department, he didn't believe that they would qualify. The radios we had purchased with the prior COVID grant, they might have, but this one's a little bit different. It's applied more to the infrastructure systems. So
I would like to add to that. So none of his capital requests fall in the category to ask for that. The radios are for normal everyday type work, so they don't fall under the criteria for the ARPA funds. But what and I failed to mention during the budget meeting, and which I do recall, the remainder, I think, is about $400 and some odd thousand will be used towards the sewer line, all of it, that we are bringing up to serve the new fire station expansion. And that is in the eligible cost of the ARPA fund. So that would be our dedicated funding, or there was a December 24th requirement, and that's what we propose, and to put that money towards. Because we pretty well exhausted the true needs, and we are allowed to use it for a sewer line like that. So that's our report on, with regard to our funds. Any questions on that?
Yes, is this the sewer line that you were talking about that abuts Maxwell?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anything you want to talk about on the budget discussion? Anything at all? Let me ask this. We do have it scheduled for a week from now is another budget meeting for a workshop, correct?
No, well, we had on the calendar that we would possibly have a workshop on Saturday, the 12th. But next Monday, on the 14th, we are scheduled for the public hearing on the budget.
That's right. So does anybody see a need for any more workshop with regard to the budget? Okay, then very good. With that, then we can move on to item G. Item G, discuss, consider, and act to establish a proposed tax rate for fiscal year 23-24 and set a public hearing on the 2023 tax rate for August 21st, 2023. And Ms. Lamb, would you, again, we're setting a proposed, as I understand, that's like, here's the ceiling of what would be asked, but it could be lowered between now and then.
That's correct. You're just setting a proposed tax rate, acknowledging that we've prepared the budget, including this as the tax rate. And so if between now and budget adoption on August 21st, if you would make any changes either to the tax rate or lowering it because of certain items that you decided not to include, or as a result of any items that the public might bring to you at the public hearing, then you would basically be setting the ceiling for it, and you could lower it between now and the time you adopt on August 21st.
So, council, I'm asking as the budget officer for a 7.99% increase on the O&M aspect of our tax, and which yields a total tax of 0.34. I can't read the small numbers. Please, Marcy, will you?
Yes, the proposed total tax rate is 0.342638, and that includes the M&O portion of 0.297294 and the debt portion of 0.045344.
And as in the, I'll take just a moment, if you please, is that as in the budget workshop, we have known expenses coming in the years ahead. And we've had, yes, multiple years. There's been the 7.99% increase, and that was justifiably so, is that we are growing. We're a young city going through a great transition right now, and that requires these resources. But again, I want to call everybody's attention due to Haslett's history of being frugal, it would be very difficult to find any city with a lesser tax rate than Haslett, Texas. Now, we have a growing family. We do. Growing community. There's lots of demands on us right now. And looking ahead, realizing and accepting the fact there are planned replacements for equipment. I have an example here. If you go to the next slide, there's a spreadsheet is right here. This represents out to 2040 just for the fire department. Known planned equipment. But if we were to do this increase, that sets us to, that's one of the aspects the funds would be used for, instead of waiting to borrow a bunch of money at, say, in 32 or 33, or even prior to that, just to replace these things. It lets us build it over time, small steps at a time. And I say small step. A 7.99% increase on the M&O aspect of our tax rate is $110 a year on a $500,000 home. I'm asking for what that monthly, that is $9.17. I'm asking for another $9.17 based on a $500,000 home, so that we can address those things that we know are coming. If you go towards the bottom, there is just a graph. This is just the fire department equipment. We have that much in public works equipment, and we are working right now on planned replacements, such as for the last 2 years, we've purchased new equipment, and that was a big payoff in terms of productivity. But in given time, plan on it, 10 years, that's all going to get replaced. And to look ahead and with the knowns that we have, that will help us address it. Instead of accumulating funds for that planned replacement, we can earn interest on those funds instead of paying interest on a loan. So that's my, excuse me. That was my philosophy going into this and the basis of my recommendation. I think there's the last slide on here. That's just, again, just over the years right here. That one slide is just over time, going back to 2018. That's not long ago. But you can see there's been a steady increase. Our community is growing. The demands on the city are growing, both in terms of infrastructure, by way of water, sewer, roads, etc., employees, new equipment, and but it's been done responsibly over time, and I'm recommending we maintain the momentum over the number of years we've achieved already. That's my closing on that request.
Mayor Halsey,
Yes.
I would like to make a motion to establish a proposed tax rate of 0.342638 for the fiscal year 2023-2024, and set a public hearing on the 2023 tax rate for August 21st, 2023.
And the motion is made to set the proposed tax rate of 0.342638. Did I get that correct?
Correct.
For fiscal year 2023-2024, and set a public hearing on the 2023 tax rate for August 21st, 2023. Is there a second?
Mayor Halsey, I second.
There is a second. Any discussion? I'll call for the vote. All in favor? There's 3, 4, all opposed. 2 opposed. Motion passes. Thank you, council. All right. The time is 7:59, and we will recess the open session and meet in executive session. So if you would take a 10-minute break, please, and meet me in the boardroom. Good evening, council. Anyone online? Time is 9:09 p.m. We will resume the open session of our meeting. And I've left my agenda. Here it is. No, consider and take any action resulting from executive session. There are none. Future is agenda items. We have one. That's noted, and any other future agenda items that you might have? There are none. Okay. 12, motion to adjourn, please.
Mayor Holsey, I move to adjourn.
Motion's made to adjourn. Is there a second?
I second that.
There's a second. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, council. Y'all have a good evening. Good evening to those in online.